Hi YouTube and welcome to my channel. My name is Majestic and I'm here to talk to you guys about knitting. I am going to be showing you guys how to knit in Magic Loop. It's a question I get asked a lot. I taught myself how to do Magic Loop. It was a little challenging at first, but it honestly came together really easily and I want to show you just how easy it can be. I use Magic Loop for making socks mainly, but I also use it if I am making a hat and I need a small needle that I don't actually have. My lights are really cool, you guys. Really excited about those because it's festive. It's the holiday time. But anyway, so I've been working on a new sock pattern that I've made myself. This is what my sock looks like. And this is actually going to be a gift for a friend. And I will be doing a whole video on my new pattern that I'm writing called Just Ribbit, and it's the sock pattern that is this one that I wrote, and I want other people to be able to do that pattern. But I realized that as I was writing it, if you want to follow the tutorial, you need to know how to do Magic Loop. So without further ado, I'm going to get started on teaching you how to do Magic Loop and how to get started with your own projects, and also showing you some of my other things that I've made using Magic Loop, including doing 2 socks at a time, toe up, and I will also be showing you how to do it cuff down, which is where you start at the cuff at the sock. It's called cuff down, going down this way, and then toe up is starting at the toe and going this way, going up, and then working the heel, and then working the actual cuff of the sock. So stay tuned, and I'm going to get right into showing you how to do Magic Loop. Alright guys, so I'm getting ready to show you guys how to do Magic Loop. So first, you want to start off with a long knitting needle. This is by Chiaogoo, and this is a fixed needle. These are US size 1. This is the size needle I generally like to use for making socks. Sometimes I'll use a size 0, but I find that what works best for me is a size US 1. I also find that I like using fixed needles better than using interchangeables for knitting socks. Fixed needles mean that the actual needles and the cables are all connected. They don't come apart. If they come apart, that's a major problem. That means your needle and cable are broken. So I find this is good because I pull a lot with knitting, so I like this. This is also done in Magic Loop. I kind of have them all jumbled up together, but sorry, got a water bottle over here. This is a sock, 2 socks I'm making at a time that are done in Magic Loop. I've got the little balls of yarn separated in each one of these. So this is from the toe up, working up to my heel. So, and these are done on size 0s. These are by Addie. These are Addie needles. These are size 0. But you can do whatever kind you want. I suggest going with a 32-inch for Magic Loop or a 40-inch at the max. It really just depends on what you're making. I've seen where people make like 12 socks on just one circular needle, so you can definitely make it work for you, but I think a 32 to 40-inch works best for making socks, and I like being able to do this with them. I know some people might say that's harming your cables, but I mean, honestly, you can boil them and they'll straighten right out for you. So to get started, I'm actually going to be using yarn that is in the sock to show you. So the yarn that I'm using is the Paton's Kroy socks. It is one of my favorite sock yarns to use. I keep finding myself going back to it, and I'm using some leftover yarn from the skein I used for this one. So to get started, I'm getting my ball of yarn together, and I'm going to be showing you how to do Magic Loop for if you're doing it in the cuff down first, because that's how my pattern's written, and then when I rewrite my pattern for toe up, I will also show you how to do that too. So getting started, we're going to find our end of the yarn, which is right here, and we're going to pull out enough yarn and I'm gonna do a 60 for the sake of this video. I'm gonna show you how to do an actual cast on for a sock. So you want to take out as much yarn as you think you need. I think this is well more than enough yarn, but just in case, you want to make sure you have a good long tail. I'm going to do a little bit less than this, but I'm still going to do a pretty large amount. So right where the yarn changes colors, that's actually where I'm going to start, right here. So how I do magic loop is I have my needles. I just take one of them. The other one just goes off to the side and I cast on. I'm doing the long tail cast on, which is where I take my fingers like this. And what I'm doing is I'm going under my thumb, over here, and through. And I'll let my thumb go, and I lightly pull with this finger and this finger. And so I have my 2 stitches cast on. Now that's the only time you're gonna get 2 is when you start. The rest is only gonna be 1. So then I'm gonna go here, go in, go around, and through. Let me fix, I have a bracelet on and it's making noise on my desk, so I don't want that to happen because that's distracting. So we're gonna go again. Remember, I have my fingers, I have these 2 fingers. These 2 fingers are the ones that are working. So I have these 2 open, and I turn my thumb. I'm just twisting my thumb over. I'm taking my needle and going in, and I'm taking my index finger, going through, and then I'm pulling through like that. So do a bit of a closer up one. I'm going with my thumb like this, going through, going through, through, going through, and this. And once you get a hang of it, you'll be able to do it really fast. I just kind of, it's a very swift motion to just cast on. So the good thing on magic loop is you don't have to use a stitch marker unless you really want to. I'll do it slower again for you. Going in, get your thumb. You're going in, through, and around. So you're going in, around, and back through. In, around, back through. In, around, back through. And you're just gonna keep doing that. Sorry, my nails are a bit chipped, but that's kind of what happens when you are someone that works with your hands a lot. You can't really keep your nails looking as clean and non-chipped as normal. But it doesn't really bother me. So now I'm taking a second to count, because what I'm doing is I'm doing a cast on of 62 stitches, because that's generally what you need to make a sock. So I'm starting off with 2, because I start off with 2, and how I count is I count by 2s. So I do 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, 26, 28, 30, 32. So I have 34 stitches now. What I'm actually going to do, and this is the only time you really need to use stitch marker if you want to, is I've got a cute little stitch marker I bought from a cute seller on eBay that just had some really cool stuff. And I'm just going to clip it in here if I can get it to work with me. So I know that I have 2 more than I actually need for this, so I'm just going to clip it on here. And then I'm going to push up my stitches because I just like having my stitches kind of close to the edge of the needle. And I've got 2, so then I'm starting off with 3 again, and I'm just going to do up to 32 so that I get my 64 stitches all together. So the reason why I'm not fast forwarding through this is just in case you need more help looking at what it is I'm doing. Some people need to see a full video, and that means see every step, and it does no good, and it really doesn't bother me to do a full video of just me casting on. So if you hear any scraping, it's this needle off to the side. So I'm just going to stick it in this finished sock so you don't have to worry about that. Sorry, I keep hitting the camera. And I'm just going to keep going. And I'm trying to make sure I'm doing this to the camera so that you're not seeing it halfway done. But casting on is probably my favorite thing to do because it's just the start of a new project, and it just gets your brain all ready for making something new. I will say a couple things about my new pattern. So my pattern works really well with yarn that does the color blocking, and you can generally tell if there's going to be color blocking if you look at a skein of yarn and you have like just sections like this of a certain color. If it's not like that, then it's safe to assume that you're not going to have color blocking with your yarn. Like I'll show you with this other yarn that I have. They're sections of the same color, like it changes constantly. So I know this isn't going to color block. It's still going to come out with a really cool pattern, but it's not going to come out exactly like this. So just keep that in mind when you're buying yarn for this project. All right, back to the casting on. And let's see. I might actually have more stitches than I need. So let's see. I'm starting off where my stitch marker is. I've got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, 26. All right, close. 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32. All right, I do one more stitch because that's also really important. All right, and so this is my tail. My tail hangs right here, and these are all the stitches that I have on here. So what I'm doing is I'm pushing all the stitches onto my actual cable. And I'm taking my second needle and putting them together. And so what I'm doing is taking it all the way to the round back of this. So, sorry, there's a lot of noise. What I'm doing is I'm bending, and you can bend your cables. So right where this stitch marker is, that tells me that I can separate these two. So I'm separating these two sides, and I am making a loop. And that's the magic in the magic loop. So you make this loop. All right, you see the loop? And then you have your 2 sections. You have 32 stitches on the side, 32 stitches on the side, which are separated by 2 needles. So here's where the fun part comes in. You're gonna push all of the stitches onto these needles, and you're not going to twist them. So what happens over here is that because they're connected at the bottom part right here, you have to make sure you line up your stitches so that they're all even, just like you would do on a regular circular knitting needle. If you're making hats, you would do the same thing. So you would do this with hats too. You're just gonna, so now I have to turn them this way so they're all even. So they're all even. And I got my working yarn over here. So that really makes a big difference. So my working yarn, just gonna make sure I have it all together. All right, sometimes you get a little, Sometimes you get a little tangled up in here, but that's okay. So long as you have your working yarn over here with your tail, all should be in one place on the same needle. And this right here, this is your end right here. So we're going to gently, but still firmly, push all of your stitches up onto these needles. And we're going to re-straighten them out. All right, they're all straightened out. They're all ready to rock and roll. And so we're going to push them up as far as we possibly can. We want these stitches to get to the very tips of our needles. And the reason why is because of how we do our magic loop. So like all circular things, you have to connect the two ends. Well, how do you connect the two ends? It's very simple. You see that end piece right here that's on this needle on the other side that's not with the working yarn in the tail? You know, we're going to tighten that up. You're going to take this piece, this stitch, just one singular stitch that's at the very end. You're going to take that stitch, and all you're going to do is, you can do it with your needle if you want to, but I prefer to do it with my fingers. Just lift it and place it over here. Place it on top of your stitch that has everything connected to it. That means your working yarn and your end piece. And then you're just going to take, and what we're going to do is we're actually going to push up this needle a little bit. The needle that has now your end piece and your working yarn in. And you're going to take your stitch that's your working yarn that's underneath it, and all you're going to do is just loop it over. That's it. You're just looping it over the end stitch. And that's how you connect in the round. So I'm just trying to get it to get a piece of that and loop it over just like that. And you've done a knit stitch for that one. So now what do? Well, you have your yarn like this, right? So all you're gonna do is you always take this back needle, the needle that is in the back. When you're first starting, you're just gonna take that stitch that you created and you're gonna move it over to this needle. And the reason why is because it brings your working yarn to the proper stitch, to the proper needle, I mean, sorry. All right, so now we're gonna work with our working yarn. So for the sake of this video, I'm not gonna do a ribbing. I'm not gonna start casting on. Not casting on. I'm not gonna start the first row traditionally with the rib stitching. I'm just gonna knit. And that way you can see how this works. So again, you're holding the needles and you're just knitting. I knit continental. I believe it's faster. One of my dear friends, Karen, who goes by Design Dreamer Now on Instagram, that you should definitely follow. She's an amazing designer. She re-taught me how to knit. I was knitting where I was throwing my yarn, and I was ambitious and decided I wanted to make a sweater, and I've since made a multitude of sweaters. But she taught me how to knit this way, and this is the way I crochet. So this is how I hold my yarn and my hook when I crochet, and I just fell in love with this method of knitting because of how easy it came to me. And I was like, why was I knitting so differently when I could just be knitting the way I crochet? And I'm keeping it nice and tight. So when I hold my yarn, I'm a very loose knitter. So one of the things I have to do is I have to hold the yarn with my pinky and then wrap it around my index finger and hold it like that. Because if I don't have enough tension to make socks and to use a fingering weight yarn, which is the smaller 4-ply yarn. So I started off as a crocheter turned knitter, and I love both of them. But knitting is really fun for me, and with crocheting, I'm pretty partial to just going with worsted weight yarn, which is a thicker weight of yarn. And with knitting, I had friends that gave me so much fingering weight yarn. I was like, I don't make shawls. I like to make sweaters. I gotta figure out how to make socks, and I'm so glad I did. And I've just been practicing using fingering weight yarn, and I really enjoy it. It took a while, but some people automatically can just get the tension right, and others just need to take time to practice it. And I finally practiced it and got it right. It took a while for my hand to get used to holding my yarn this way, but now that it has, I can't imagine any other way. So now I'm taking off the stitch marker because I don't need it anymore. Because when you're in magic loop, you always know where your stitch is. So it seems like I have a lost stitch right here, and that's okay. Sorry, I hit the camera again. All right, so I'm going in, and I am doing this. So this works out really well. All right, and so then I'm going to go to the other side, and I'm going to start over here. So all I did was I twisted the yarn over to the other side. So now I'm on this side, which has not been worked on yet. And I've got two new, I call them bridges, in between. So all I'm doing is pushing up the yarn on this needle and moving the yarn from this needle, the finished stitches, over here. And now all I'm doing is with that first stitch, and you want to make sure that you have them up as close as you possibly can without them falling off. Go in, make your knit stitch, and pull as tight as you can. Because you want to make sure you keep this nice and tight so that your bridge does not get really loose, because you will end up with a gap if you're not careful. So I'm making it sound a little more complicated than it actually is. It's just making sure you're holding everything nice and tight, but not to the point where you're feeling like you're going to break anything. So this is how you do magic loop. It's not as difficult as anyone may make it seem, and it's really fun to do. I can't imagine myself doing it any other way, and I hope that you guys enjoy this video. Please like and subscribe. I really appreciate that, so that I can continue making content for this channel. It's really important to have good videos that show you how to make and how to create things, especially when you want to learn. I try to make sure that I help whoever I possibly can, because I had so many people help me when I wanted to start and learn, and I feel like having a free alternative is the best way to get more people into the craft. So I'm at a point right here where I have to knit a stitch that's pretty tight. So that's okay. I've got one down, I got one more to go. All right, so they're both knitted. And this is the magic part, the loop. You pull the loop and the needle comes right there. So, and you just keep going. Whatever the pattern that you're using that requires magic loop, this is all you're doing the whole time. You're just going back and forth, and it can get a little tricky. Sometimes your stitches do get a little tight, but you just keep going. And remember that back yarn, you remember where you are, where you first started, because your working yarn is going to be over here. It's going to be facing you rather than over here on the side. So that's how you know where you are if you've completed your full transition of going through a complete row of these. And so I'm going to go through another row with you guys. So I'm pushing all of it up, and I've got my loop over here, and I'm working within this loop. So you have two loops. It's like an infinity over here. So it's really cool how magic loop works with yarns, and it's so fun to work with, and I really love it. And I get asked all the time, how do you do magic loop? Because I have friends that have made socks and they use DPNs, and nothing is wrong with using double point needles. They're great. I have flexi flips and I have a regular set of DPNs, but I have to say I don't use them very often since I know how to do magic loop. It's only for projects where I absolutely have to, like even doing this, I did magic loop. The whole sock is made magic loop with some with a little break of magic loop where I did use one DPN, but I used the other part of my needle over here. Also, you have to be careful in magic loop because if you pull the needle back, then you're gonna end up losing your stitches. So just grab your stitches back if that happens and you're good to go. But this pattern I'm super excited to share with you guys. I was making a bunch of Christmas socks and making a bunch of projects for people and starting stuff, and I really got into socks this year with the pandemic being so crazy and just inaccessible for everyone. Doing something as simple as learning to make one of the most basic clothing garments is one of the most asked for thing at homeless shelters. I thought it was just an important skill to have, was to learn to make socks. And as someone that's used to using bigger yarn, it gives a whole new life to the stash that I have of yarn. And I chose the sock yarn that I'm using. And getting ready to do the loop again. Finish with this needle, so I'm just gonna pull. And when you pull, you only pull the one side that needs to be pulled over. But I chose this yarn because it's so accessible. You can find it at Michael's, AC Moore, Joann's, some Walmarts even sell it. I don't support Hobby Lobby, so I'm not going to mention them as a alternative place to shop, but if that's where you get your stuff from, then more power to you. They do sell this there as well. They just don't align with some of my beliefs, so I choose to stick with Michael's, which, you know, all corporations have their faults, but I looked at how companies were treating their employees during the time of COVID, and that really made a final decision for me for a lot of things. There's some things you can overlook, but some policies that just don't align with just basic helping of humans just don't make for a great place for me to buy my crafts from. But again, if that's where you like to shop, then more power to you. You definitely can shop wherever you want to shop at. Yeah, this yarn is just, it's generally pretty cheap. In America, where I'm at, it's about $5 a skein, maybe $6, but where I go to, they always have coupons, so you can always get either one for like buy one and get one free, or buy one get one half off, or get 20% off of every thing that you buy. So and this is one of my favorite yarns because it's wool, and it's a really nice wool. You definitely need to feel around your yarns when you buy them, because some wools are rougher than others, and whereas some other ones are not as rough. Like this one is super soft, and this is the softest Paton Kroy that I have had, that I've made socks with. And I did read that some dye lots are more on the rougher side than others, but this one feels really nice and buttery, really soft in my hands, and I like it. It's like a luxury wool. I don't know if it's because of the colorway or how it's processed, but this one just feels really nice. Whereas some of the other Paxton Kroy ones I've gotten have been a little bit more on the rough side, but that just means they're going to wear more like a thicker sock, whereas this is going to be more of an everyday casual sock. The other ones are going to be more like a working sock, like you wear with your boots and things like this. You can still wear this with boots, but I just think it's really cool to have, they have different textures. So make sure you do squish your yarn and feel it and make sure it feels nice. I found that when I was learning to knit and I was trying new things, that would stop me would be how the wool feels or how the yarn feels. And if I didn't like it, I wasn't going to make anything with it. Like if I didn't like the colors, if I didn't like any little thing about it, that's what drives someone to finish a project, is how much they like the colors they're working on. So think about that when you're asking your friends to make you something, or even if you find yourself making something for someone or even for yourself, and you bought some yarn and you thought, oh, I thought I would like this, but you really don't. You know, it might be best to gift it to someone. But there are other alternatives to Paxton Kroy socks. If you do not like wool, there are wool-free yarns that are acrylic and bamboo blends. Michael's has one called the Perfect, and I have a sock here that I made for a friend that's using a yarn that is a cotton, bamboo, and silk. Even though silk is not vegan, this is also a nice alternative if you don't want a wool sock. Maybe you live somewhere like I do, like South Carolina, where it's really pretty warm most of the time, but this sock is the one that is not made with wool. But most of the stuff I do use is wool. I use ethically sourced wool, and I get it from my local yarn shop and friends that have given me yarn, and I really like having wool. I just like how it feels. Most of my stuff is made with a wool blend or a wool and acrylic blend, but generally a lot of wool. So if you are a vegetarian or a vegan, I'm there with you. I'm pescatarian. I eat seafood, but I mainly eat vegan and vegetarian most of the time, but I do try to limit the amount of animal products that I have and own. So yeah, if you're just not into wool, do more research and look at different yarns and different yarn companies and how the wool is processed. You might change your mind, but if not, there are cotton and acrylic alternatives that you can still make socks with. There's a lot of really cool sock yarn. You really want to look for something that has nylon in it or some sort of polyester that's going to give you a stretch. Like this has a nice stretch to it. And that's because of the nylon that is actually in here. So I'll link some alternatives to wool that you can find at your local craft store. But back to the magic loop. That was my little rant for the video. But yeah, this is just really simple. If you have any concerns about magic loop, please send me a message. I would be more than happy to respond to you and to let you know how to better your understanding of magic loop. And just so you know, most of my sock videos on this channel will be done in magic loop, just because that's how I make socks and that's how I will continue to make socks. So this is cuffed down, and it's not hard to do. It's very, very simple, very mild. There isn't a whole lot of stress with this, and once you get it going, it's so easy. I mean, look at that knit. It looks so pretty. I love how knitted garments just look so cool. I love crochet ones too. They're so intricate, but knitting with the knitting needles and creating that sock or that sweater or hat, it's just something about it that just feels like love. I just really enjoy it so much. So I'm really happy that I'm getting this experience with you guys to help you learn how to do magic loop, and I hope that you continue with magic loop. Again, please like and subscribe this video and give me a thumbs up. I hope to see you again for my sock knitting video where I show you how to make this really cool rib sock. So this one's done cuff down. I will be making some that are toe up so you can see the difference, and I will be using the same yarn because I love how this is the color. I love how this came out. It was so cool because I didn't know how I should keep the sections, but I just love how they worked out where you have these little lines in between, and then you have your nice color changes that are just so pretty, and they just go together. This sock is a little too big for me. It's for a friend of mine, and I know that they will enjoy this very much. It's just so fun. But yeah, just such a cool thing, and they're super stretchy. Just so fun. Well, thank you guys for watching this video, and I hope to see you guys soon. All right, bye.